Okay, so he hit a small pothole in the final home stretch of the season. No need to panic. Still hot over our last three. Still over 500 for the season. 11 plays this week. Only 3 spreads. Lots of player props. We'll talk about them. Roll tape. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel, another edition of Uncle Dan's Best Bets. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe as always. The Buffalo Plus YouTube channel closing in on 28,000 subscribers. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you've already subscribed, I appreciate it as always. If you haven't, take a second right now before we win money and subscribe. Appreciate it. Thank you as always. And again, thank you to Incognito Menswear. They're a proud sponsor all season long of Uncle Dan's Best Bets. You got holiday parties coming up. You want to get new wardrobe for the upcoming year, maybe a New Year's party. How about you go there? They got suits, they got sport coats, they got ties, they got flannels, they got coats, they got jackets, they got any kind of shirt. You need a dress shirt, you need more of a casual shirt. It's you got to go to a holiday party. How about a little hoodie and a sport coat? Works out perfectly. Go check them out. They're located in Penfield. Tell them I sent you. I worked with Alex. Again, can't thank Incognito Menswear enough for what they've done in sponsoring Uncle Dan's Best Bets. As for last week, tough pill to swallow. Okay, so let's look at the big picture. We are still over 500 for the season, 68, 67, and 1. And over our last 3 weeks, we're still 24 and 17. We're still warm, okay? 2 out of the last 3 weeks winners. Really tough to lose the parlay where the Packers take the lead late and then let the Tommy DeVito march down the field on them. That's what happens. Okay. And the Josh Allen rushing yards was heartbreaking. I saw it coming a mile away.
But I mean, I'm devastated. Devastated.
Really tough to take. We had over 34.5. Josh had 35 rushing yards, and it was 2 knees to set him back. Yeah, 32.5 rushing yards. Gone, thanks to 2 knees. But hey, it happens. We've been on the other side of some ones. The luck will continue to turn. I got 11 plays this week, and I'm only, as I said in the beginning, I only got 3 spreads. And that's because some of these spreads are big. Some of these teams, I'm not sure where they really are. We just saw on Thursday night, the Chargers, a dead team walking, getting blown out by a bad Raiders team. So still trying to figure it out. So I went with much more data-driven information here, much more player props that were trends and numbers that I followed. So let's get right into them. No messing around. Week 15, I got 11 picks. And I'll start with one of the spreads that I like. I like the Bengals -3 at home against the Vikings. I'll jump on the Jake Browning train. Choo-choo. He is playing really well, and I think this Bengals team has a new sense of life. And I don't think the Vikings are any good. Okay. They were playing a really bad game. They're changing their quarterback again. They're going to Nick Mullins. I just am not buying that. I think this Bengals team has a sense of life and the fact that maybe the playoffs aren't totally dead for them. So I will back Jake Browning -3 at home against a Vikings team that I just feel like it's time to sell the Minnesota stock. We rode the Josh Dobbs wave. That was fun. Now we're selling all of our stocks. I think they are a team that is heading in the wrong direction. But I will take a player prop on Minnesota's side. And I can't take full credit from this. Eric Moody, ESPN, I've seen it all around social media as well. A lot of people are on this one. TJ Hockenson over 52.5 receiving yards. So a couple of reasons. He has hit this in 6 out of his last 7 games. And Nick Mullins, in his short career as a starter, especially when he was in San Francisco, targeted George Kittle a lot. So he's used to targeting tight ends. That's a good sign as well. On top of it, no team allows more receiving yards to tight ends than the Cincinnati Bengals. Tight ends are averaging 72 yards per game against the Bengals. So while the Vikings couldn't really even move the ball against the Raiders, Hockenson still had successful days. Even as Josh Dobbs and the offense continued to sputter, Hockenson was the go-to guy. So I will take Hockenson over 52.5. I'm recording this Friday afternoon. I imagine on DraftKings that will continue to go up. That one, I believe, is going to be a highly bet prop. The other prop I will take is Jamar Chase over 5.5 catches. Now, I know if you look at his game log, he hasn't had a ton of catches statistically over the last few games. But I think that with Jake Browning coming in and kind of settling in, he's going to lean on Jamar Chase. And last game was kind of a weird spot against, because in the Jags game, they targeted him 11 times. He had 10 catches. He's got a really good catch rate, and Jake Browning has a really high completion percentage. He's putting the ball. They're not asking him to do too much. They're safe completions. And I think this game will be close throughout. So I think that they will lean on Chase, is my sense there. Also, for a lot of people that think the Vikings defense has played well of late, and they have, especially passing wise, that's kind of fool's gold, because they haven't played any really good teams, especially passing wise. They face the Raiders, the Bears, and the Browns. This will be the best passing offense that the Vikings defense has faced. I think Browning stays hot, his cockiness, his moxie, and he'll lean on Jamar Chase to have 6 catches. I don't think it's asking too much. He's going to get a lot of targets. So I like the over 5.5 catches for Jamar Chase. Staying on the Saturday games. We've done it before. I chickened out on it last week. I was mad at myself. I like Jamar Gibbs over 53.5 rushing yards. Denver is a much better defense, but throughout the entire season, they have the worst rushing defense in the NFL. Denver, it's at home. Denver's playing well. Lions kind of scuffling, losing 2 out of their last 3. I think they get back to keeping it simple. I know Gibbs doesn't get a ton of carries, but he's making the most of his opportunities. And I think that they will see this team with Ben Johnson and with Dan Campbell. I think to get right, you expose the Broncos' weakness. I think you just run the ball down their throat. You're at home in primetime. I like the the Lions to bounce back, and I think they do it on the ground. So I will back Jamar Gibbs over 53.5 rushing yards. He has hit it in 2 out of his last 3 weeks, and I just think that that's the way to go in this play. He's averaging about 60 yards over his last 3 games. So I like the way that that's going. And again, we're getting later in the season. Defenses are getting tired and worn. You'll see that as we go through the rest of the plays. So those are my plays so far on Saturday. Bengals -3, Hockenson over, Jamar Chase over receptions, Jamar Gibbs over rushing yards. As we move into Sunday, my best bets, going chronologically in order, Saquon Barkley over 67.5 rushing yards. This is simply a play of finding defenses that are being exposed late in the season. It's a lot harder for teams right now in week 15 to change who they are. If you have a weakness in your system, there is enough tape out there, teams will expose it, and you can't really change anything. You're not getting guys back. It's just what you are. And right now, the Saints are the worst rushing defense in the NFL. Over their last 3 games, they have allowed 191 rushing yards. And over the entire season, they have the second worst rushing defense at home. They're allowing 138 rushing yards. So I will take Saquon Barkley as my best bet over 67.5 rushing yards. For all Tommy DeVito winning the NFC Player of the Week, and that's great offensively, Brian Daboll isn't stupid, and he's not just going to all of a sudden let Tommy DeVito start chucking the ball all over the field. They will continue to feed Barkley. The Giants' offensive line actually fared really well against the Packers' Packers defensive line. This Saints defensive line ain't much better than the Packers defensive line. So I like this to kind of continue. I think they have a little bit of energy. I think Daboll feeds Barkley against a really, really bad, struggling Saints rushing defense. Barkley goes over 100 yards. If you want to do, the alternate line, I think he gets about 80 to 85 rushing yards against the Saints. Another one of my spreads, my 6th pick of the week, Rams -6.5. I just think they're playing really good football right now. I know it was a tough loss in Baltimore, but this was a team that said, they can't go out and play in the elements. They played in pretty much a downpour in Baltimore and took them to overtime. I like the way they're playing. I know the Commanders are coming off a bye. I just don't think Washington has anything left in the tank. I think they're going to look like the Chargers team we saw. Their head coach is a dead man walking. I like the Rams to continue to make a playoff push, a team that nobody wants to see. I'll take the Rams -6.5. Another play, you've seen it before. I will say it again. Sam Howell over 37.5 passing attempts. 2 weeks ago, we took him against Miami. The game got out of hand too quickly for Sam Howell to really reach that. I think he only had 23 passing attempts. It was one of the first games this season where they actually ran the ball more than they threw it. And that was just a circumstance. Game got out of hand. Let's just run the clock and get out of Miami. But forgetting that last game, Sam Howell's passing attempts, going back, 44, 45, 44, 45, 52, 42, 23, 51, 41. That's a lot. Nobody throws more passes than Sam Howell. I think this game is a shootout. It's indoors at SoFi Stadium. So I like the fact that this game will go back and forth. They're coming off a bye week. they still need to see if Sam Howell is the quarterback. So they're not just always going to start running the ball to see what their offensive line is. They're going to put the ball in Sam Howell's hand and they're going to let him throw it. Rams passing defense isn't great. You saw Lamar kind of expose that as well last week. So I really like this one as well. This is probably my second favorite play of the week is Sam Howell's over passing attempts. I may make this one a 2-unit play as well as Barkley. The other one I have for the Rams, the Washington Commanders defense is the worst. Passing defense is the worst in the league. Everybody seems to light them up. Matt Stafford playing well, especially of late. I think he's 6th in QBR over the last 5 weeks since their bye. I like Puka Ngata. Wanted to bet him all season. Now I finally get a chance. Puka Ngata over 66.5 receiving yards. The Commanders rank dead last in passing defense this year, and they have allowed 271 passing yards over their last 3 games. So we're honing in on teams that are struggling in one area, and we're betting the opponent in that case. So here we have, I wanted to look at the Commanders' passing defense, saw they were struggling, one of the worst in the league, and I'm like, okay, where can I pinpoint out where this goes? So we ended up with Puka Ngata. Could have gone with Cooper Kupp, but he's about 85 yards. They spread the ball around. I love the way that Matt Stafford is playing right now. So I will take Puka Ngata. I think it was minus 115 for over 66.5 receiving yards. They've found a nice balance with Kupp back. I like the way this offense is humming. I like the way that Stafford is playing. I like this one a lot as well. Puka Ngata over receiving yards. Moving on to the Sunday night game, and then we'll do Bills last. Zay Flowers over 56.5 receiving yards versus the Jags. The Jags right now have a pathetic passing defense. You saw Jake Browning tear them up. Right now, over their last 3 games, they're allowing 301 passing yards against them. So again, targeting bad defenses' weaknesses and betting the opposing offense. So this is what we're going to do. Obviously, they do not have Mark Andrews, and we were wondering how Lamar would handle that. Well, Zay Flowers picked up. He got 10 targets in that game. He went for 5 catches for 60 yards, I think it was. I like Zay Flowers again against a really porous Jacksonville Jaguars secondary. So that's my 9th pick. My 10th pick, Bills -2. No real getting around it. I like the Bills against the Chiefs. Minus Josh ripping our heart out there with some knees. We were all over it. I thought this was a team at a right spot. They're playing really, really well. And some of the stats against the deck. And here's another one. I've talked about it all season long. Teams that are really good, that are getting points, that are underdogs. And everybody says, oh my gosh. I think the stat is, again, teams with a winning percentage of over 70% that are an underdog, that are getting points, are 18, 36, and 1 since the start of last season. This season, they're 5 and 18 against the spread. Everybody sees this as, oh my gosh, the Cowboys are getting points. That's a no-brainer. Vegas just doesn't give you points. They're not just going to sit there and say, yeah, the Cowboys are much better than the Bills, and no problem. I like the fact that the Cowboys are only 3-3 on the road. They're 7-0 at home. The Bills are getting them in a good spot, coming off an emotional win against the Eagles. And some other Dak stats that were pretty interesting to me. Dak is really good against the NFC East, 28-11 in his career against the spread. Against all other divisions, 36, 39, and 2. Cowboys coming off a big win. Here's one for you. This is also from the Action Network. Under Mike McCarthy, Dallas is 6-1 against the spread after winning by 20 points or more, including 3-10 against the spread in their last 13 in this spot. Dallas can have a letdown here. Big win. Huge emotional win. Now they've played 3 games at home. Now they go on the road. It's supposed to be rainy, supposed to be in the 40s. Tough environment. I really like the Bills here based on all of those stats. And how about this one for you as well? Teams to average 30 points per game or more in December or later are 86, 118, and 3 against the spread over the last 20 years. That's 42%. So again, we're getting later in the year. You got to go out in the elements. This is a dome team coming to Orchard Park. I really like the Bills here in this spot. And finally, it's not out yet. I've been searching for it everywhere, all the time on DraftKings. I will take whatever Josh Allen's over rushing attempts are. I'm not going to take his yards and get screwed over like I did last week, but I will take the over rushing attempts. Over the first 10 weeks of the season, when Ken Dorsey was coordinator, Josh Allen averaged 4.8 rushing yards, 4.8 rushing attempts per game. Since Joe Brady has taken over, now he's averaging 8 rushing attempts per game. If it's anything below 9, I will take this over. I don't think it's going to be at 11, but again, they've unlocked something. And Sean McDermott says that Joe Brady has embraced Josh Allen running the ball. I think you're going to see that in a little bit of worse elements. And this is this time of the year where Josh Allen just has to put on his cape and get the win. So those are the 11 plays. Appreciate it as always. I want to give a shout out to Ballaholic, who always comments in, as well as Alex Langley, as well as all the other guys, John McClintock, Dale Buddha, Ian Gallagher, a lot of these guys that comment in and see my picks. I appreciate it as always. We're getting about 1,000 views a week. Tell your friends. We appreciate it. It's great for the channel. It's great for me. It's great for Incognito. It's great for Buffalo Plus. Appreciate it as always. Again, honing in on certain teams here in these certain spots. That's the key that we're going to do this week. Got to get rolling. Don't let me get hot. Don't let me get hot. Don't let 2 Josh Allen knees and -2 yards ruin how well we have been the last 3 weeks. Again, 24-17 over the last 3 weeks. We will keep it going. Thanks again, as always. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Shout out again to Incognito. Shout out again to you and Ballaholic and everybody that comments in. Comment in with what your favorite play is of the week. Appreciate it, as always. Best of luck this weekend, especially with Uncle Dan's Best Bets.